Tiny House Prepper.
Hi everybody, this is Bill from Tiny House Prepper, and this video is going to be a review of the Berkey water filter. But before I get to that, I want to ask you a question. Are you a prepper? Do you have a plan for your prepping? Do you have your plan written down? It's very important that you write down what you're doing because that allows you to identify holes in your plan. We actually did a series called How to Start Prepping, a 3-video series that will help you to write down a plan for your prepping. If you do that, then you can very easily, like I said, identify holes in your prepper plan. Now, one big glaring hole that we had in our plan was water. We've actually done fairly well with a lot of other things, but the water was a real problem. See, our water in our house here is on a well, and it's very good water, but there's two problems with that. One is that it takes electricity to run the pump that brings the water up out of the ground, and if the electricity's gone, then you won't be able to pump it out. But an even bigger concern is that we don't own the well. We are on a well that services the whole community. It's owned by the Property Owners Association, and it services all the houses in this area, about 25 or 30 houses. So I don't have any control over it. I can't put a hand pump on it, for instance. So I don't know what's going to happen with that well. They do have, I believe, a generator to run if the power goes out, but I don't know how much gasoline they have stored. They probably only have a few days worth. And if you have, a real serious end of the world event and the power is out long term, then we're not going to have any water. So we had to figure out what we were going to do. Now, I've had several people ask me about our water catchment system. Now, we don't have a water catchment system. I thought about doing that, but basically I decided against it because up here in the Northeast where we live, a water barrel sitting outside would be a solid chunk of ice for at least 3 months out of the year, so it really wouldn't do us a whole lot of good. So we had to come up with something else. Now, I haven't been too terribly worried about it because we have a stream, a very good running stream, not far from here, and I figured that would be our water source should the power go out and we can't get water from our well. Okay, so here about a half mile or so from our house is this nice city park. It's actually pretty new. I've just put in picnic tables and a gazebo over there, and right on the other side of this wall right here is our creek where we're going to be getting water. So here it is from a different angle. There's that picnic area, and this is our creek right here. Now, sorry about the traffic. Now this creek never runs dry. We've been here for quite a few years, and we're actually in the middle of a drought right now, although it rained pretty good today, so it's up a little bit. But I've never seen this run dry. It gets pretty low, but it's always a good steady source of water. So we don't have to worry about it running dry. However, in the winter, it does freeze over. So, in the winter, when this freezes over, in order to get water, I have to go a little bit further downstream. To this point, right here, as you can see, there's nice falls here. Now these falls never freeze in the winter. Well, I can't say never, I would say they rarely freeze in the winter. If we have like 3 or 4 nights where it's way below 0 Fahrenheit, and then during the day it doesn't get up above freezing, then they could possibly freeze. And while we do have a lot of nights below 0 up here in the Northeast, it's rare to have more than 2 nights in a row like that. Those cold spells just usually don't last that long. If they do, I might be melting snow, who knows. But this is our basic plan for drinking water in the winter when the rest of the creek freezes. Now this might be a little bit difficult to get to because I have to hike down a trail for about a quarter of a mile. And if it's covered with snow, that could be a challenge. But like I said, it's still better than, gathering and melting snow on the stove. So this is our winter water plan.
I'm really very grateful to have a source of water that's not so far from home that I think is going to always be there.
So now that we've gone to the stream and brought some water back, the plan initially was to boil it. But that has some issues. One is, you've always got to have fuel and waste fuel or collect fuel to be able to boil it. And the other thing is that that'll take care of pathogens, but it won't do anything for chemicals and heavy metals. So in the interim, that was my plan, but we have finally been able to plug the hole in our prepper plan, and we bought a Berkey water filter. So that's what I'm going to show you now. Now this is our Berkey water filter. It's all stainless steel. It's got the upper reservoir up here where the filters go. These are the filters. You pour the water in here, and it feeds with gravity down through the filters, drips into the lower section, then you can access the water right here. It's kind of cool the way it's designed, because when you're not using it, you can actually turn it upside down, fit it in like that. It makes it smaller for storage. Now it comes standard with 2 filters, and with those 2 filters it has a filtration rate of 3.5 gallons per hour. Now you can buy extra filters. Notice here on the bottom there's 4 holes, and you put the 2 filters in there. You can buy 2 extra filters and fill the other holes with 4 filters in there. It will actually filter 7 gallons per hour. Now I did buy an extra set of filters, but I didn't buy it so we can do 7 gallons per hour. I bought it as spare filters, because in the end of the world you probably won't be able to go online and buy another set of filters if these should ever need to be replaced. So I bought another set to save as replacement filters. Of course there's an extra cost for that extra set. Also, it comes standard with this plastic nozzle that goes down here. The problem with that is that in order to see how much water you've got in your reserve down here, you actually have to lift this up and look in there. They have this extra nozzle that I purchased that's got a glass window in here, kind of like when you go, to the convenience store and get coffee, and it shows you how much coffee is in there. But this will show you how much water is in there, so you don't have to be lifting this up all the time. Now, Berkey has about a half a dozen different filters. The smallest one is called the Travel Berkey. This is the next one up. It's called the Big Berkey. And we decided to get it when I saw it was only about $30 or $40 more than the Travel Berkey. Travel Berkey only has 2 filters and does not have room for more. But this, you can actually put in 4 filters, and you can service a lot larger family with this. The cost, the filter itself was $258 for the whole thing here. And then the extra set of filters was $100, which was a savings if you buy it at the same time you buy this. And then the little spigot was $24.50, and there was no shipping and no tax, so the total cost for everything that I purchased here was $382.50. Now so far I really like most of what I see. It's all high quality, but there are 2 issues that I'm really not happy about, and I need to explain them to you. The first one is how you plug the extra holes after you put the filters in. So you put the filters in, now this is fine. It's got a rubber gasket on the inside to keep it from leaking. And then the water the dirty water from in here goes through the filter and drips out through the bottom. And then you put the other filter here. The problem is the other two holes. How do you plug the other two holes? And what they sent me were these. This is ridiculous. Berkey, if you're listening, this is totally substandard. This is ridiculous. They look like earplugs for the rifle range. You're supposed to just stick them in the hole, and there it is. Now, I tried it. It does stop the water, but I could foresee a problem here. And in fact, the problem that I imagined is exactly what happened to me. I had water in there and I wanted to lift it up to see how much was in, and as I came across, this knocked off on there and it pushed up, and all the water that was inside started pouring out of the hole. And by the time I realized that had popped out, I had a quart of water that had dribbled all over my foot and all over the carpet, and it was just ridiculous. If that had been contaminated water that I was purifying, it would have dribbled down into the clean water and it would have completely contaminated that. So this just simply doesn't work. So I came up with a fix. I went to the local hardware store and I bought a couple of stainless steel washers and nuts and bolts and a rubber grommet. And so I put that in against the bottom, or in the hole, and then here I'll show you. With the rubber against the steel, put that on there, and then tighten that up with pliers, and you can see it's, I hope you can see, that will make a solid seal that will not leak, and it shouldn't be a problem. The other concern I have about this, besides falling out, is what if you lose one of these? They're just loose. What if you lose one? The whole thing is useless. So I bought 2 of these, and I'm really pleased with with my own ingenuity, if you will. I'm really pleased with the fix that I came up with because it works really well. Now, the other thing that I really don't like about it is this little rubber gasket right here. Let me explain to you what this is for. First, I have to explain the filter. This is a super high-tech filter. It filters out just about everything. It filters out like 99.99% of everything. It takes out all bacteria and viruses. It takes out all chemicals. It takes out heavy metals like lead or mercury. It says it even takes out food coloring out of water. That's how fine this thing is. And the way it does it is that there are these tiny little holes all through here that trap the contaminants in there. And what they say in the directions is that those holes are so small that the water can't even get through it unless it's primed first. If I would just put those filters in there and fill it with water, the gravity would not be enough to push the water in to the filter and fill all those tiny little holes in there. So you have to prime it and get all those little holes filled with water, and then once they're full, then the gravity is enough to make the water go through and to filter it. Now, the way you do that is you take this little gasket that they've provided, this little rubber washer, and you put it on there, and then you put it on your spigot, and you run water under pressure, low pressure, but pressure down through there until it starts to sweat. And at first I thought, well, there's a gasket here, a rubber washer here, why can't I just use that? But this is loose, and here, let me show you my spigot. So here's my kitchen spigot, and notice that it has a solid face here. There's no way to take that cap off and get a hole in there, which means that I can't press that up against there because there's nowhere for that to go in there like that. So what I have to do, this fits tight, not like this is loose, this fits tight, and then I can press it against it like that. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Press it up tight, and then turn on a little bit of water. And I'm giving just a little bit of pressure there, and it should be pushing the water through the holes in the filter. And the direction says to keep doing this until you see the filter starting to sweat, of the water starting to come out. Okay, I've been holding this up here for about maybe a minute and a half, and all of a sudden all the water, you can see it starting to sweat through there. I don't know if you can see it on the camera or not, but all of a sudden the whole thing is getting wet, and it's not spilling down from the top, it's actually leaking through and sweating all the way through. That's how you know that the filter has been primed and all of those little holes are full. See where it was sweating through. So I have two concerns with this system that they have for priming the filter. I completely understand why it's necessary. It wouldn't work if you didn't have some way to prime it. But as you can see, it was kind of awkward. It took me several minutes with pressure coming out of the spigot. Now, if I was going to travel with it, at first I thought, oh, this would be great to take camping and all kinds of stuff. You can use it, wherever you go. If I was going to travel with it and I was going to prime the filter, the directions say to take a plastic water bottle and hold it upside down on with that washer and squeeze the water bottle to give pressure to push it through there. That to me seems even more awkward. And my main concern is this. This is loose. If I lose this, how would I prime the filter? So they should have built some kind of a little compartment on the casing here where I could put that so I wouldn't lose it. This is a major concern for me. Now, I don't know what to do about it. Tape it to the bottom maybe? I don't know. But there it is. You got to put this someplace where you're not going to lose it. But now I got this one filter primed. I'll go ahead and prime the other filter and get them properly installed. So now I have everything installed. I have both of the filters primed, and then down in there I have those two stainless steel plugs that I put in there to keep the water from leaking out. And here it is from the bottom. You can see these are the filters, and these are the two plugs that I put in. Hard to see with that reflection. Okay, so now we should be pretty much ready to go. Here's the water that I just gathered from the river. As you can see, it's kind of brownish and it has some dirt down in the bottom of it. But I'll go ahead and pour it into the filter. Now we'll just let it do its job and start filtering. You probably can't hear it on the camera, but I can hear it dripping down through the filters and into the bottom part. It's kind of exciting. Okay, so it's now been filtering for a little while. In the glass here, there's about a ½ inch of water, so there's plenty to get a drink of water out of there. Now this is the filtered water, and here's the river water. Yeah, you can definitely see the difference. This is the filtered water. This is the unfiltered river water. This is kind of brownish, and there's stuff in the bottom of it. And this is nice and clear. Now for the taste test. Filtered river water. tastes just like water should taste. It's really good. So, what's the bottom line? Well, first of all, the holes that were in the bottom that I had to plug with those stainless steel washers, if you get the travel Berkey rather than the big Berkey, the travel Berkey only has 2 holes because you can only put 2 filters in it, so that wouldn't be an issue with that travel Berkey. The travel Berkey is a couple inches shorter and an inch or 2 smaller around. It's still, because it has 2 filters, it still filters at the same rate as this one does with just 2 filters in it. It just doesn't hold quite as much water. So, I really like it. I think it's going to take care of our needs. My only issue, like I mentioned before, was the holes in the bottom that you're supposed to plug with this. That's ridiculous. And this washer that you have to use to prime the filters. But overall, I'm very happy with it. It'll sit here, right here on the counter. Now, we're not going to be using this except in emergencies because our water coming from our spigot is very good. So I'm just going to pack this up, put it in a box, put it away, and I'll put this inside and make sure I don't lose it. But then if we have emergency, if the power goes out, then we'll get it out, we'll set it here on the counter, and then we have all the water we're going to need. And I'm very happy with that. So I hope this has been helpful. If you don't know anything about a Berkey, there's a Berkey filter. So thank you very much for listening, and as always, if you like it, then like the video, and don't forget to subscribe. Okay, thanks, bye. Tiny House Prepper. Hi everybody, this is Bill from Tiny House Prepper, and this video is going to be a review of the Berkey water filter. But before I get to that, I want to ask you a question. Are you a prepper? Do you have a plan for your prepping? Do you have your plan written down? It's very important that you write down what you're doing, because that allows you to identify holes in your plan. We actually did a series called How to Start Prepping, 3-video series that will help you to write down a plan for your prepping. If you do that, then you can very easily, like I said, identify holes in your prepper plan. Now, one big glaring hole that we had in our plan was water. We've actually done fairly well with a lot of other things, but the water was a real problem. See, our water in our house here is on a well, and it's very good water, but there's 2 problems with that. One is that it takes electricity to run the pump that brings the water up out of the ground, and if the electricity's gone, then you won't be able to pump it out. But an even bigger concern is that we don't own the well. We are on a well that services the whole community. It's owned by the Property Owners Association, and it services all the houses in this area, about 25 or 30 houses. So I don't have any control over it. I can't put a hand pump on it, for instance. So I don't know what's going to happen with that well. They do have, I believe, a generator to run if the power goes out, but I don't know how much gasoline they have stored. They probably only have a few days worth. And if you have, a real serious end of the world event and the power is out long term, then we're